the mutating face of GBV within the workplace. When you come down and you are talking to someone, do you know that GBV presents itself in particular ways? It could be economic violence, it could be emotionally, it could be in different ways. There's so many ways, so many different faces of gender-based violence. How knowledgeable are you about this? Now, talking about GBV within the workplace, whatever workplace it is, we mentioned that 51% of women, 51% of Uganda's labor force is the women. And when it comes to 68% of Uganda's labor force, that is within agriculture. But talking about the connotations, the different partitionings, you get quite a lot of women within the agriculture as well as different sectors. Then we boiled down to different statistics, which also look at the fact that within market vending in Uganda takes in 90% of the urban population. 90%. Those are huge statistics coming in. Now, a recent study carried out by FIDA Uganda in 2023 the findings showed that there was a little bit of economic violence happening within the market spaces, especially the different markets that had been targeted within the urban center. You have St. Balikudembe, you have Nakulabye. Those were some of the areas in which the respondents came from. Amongst them, like I had mentioned earlier, you have different ways in which these women, whether it is a woman vending matoke or tomatoes, or even with her little catering stall there, her food stall, who is able to supply one of the different customers who are male. Most of the times, the male customers did not pay them. Now, the essence, let's give you just the format of how this happens, just in case you haven't been down there. In the morning, breakfast is prepared, lunch is prepared, supper, or sometimes even a little bit of in between, like evening tea is prepared by these women that have the stalls within the markets. So they get to give out the different clients, pass out the food. Of course, they do have a team, give out the different clients, serve them. Now, because the monies are normally computed or come together in bulk form at the end of the day, the women go back or send their different workers to get payment from those customers. Now, when they get to the customers that they have been serving, in most cases, they mentioned, the respondents mentioned that the women, that the men that they got to give these different services said they don't pay them in time. Even some, it's not even the matter of fact about paying in time. They just flatly say, I do not have that money. What do you want me to do? What will you do to me? It broaches onto that. And then, of course, you have the different sightings of sexual violence against some of the girls, some grappling, unwanted physical touches, and that also come under the bracket of sexual violence, which can be deemed under gender-based violence. All this is happening within the work spaces, especially within the marketplaces, such as we have highlighted. Now, the research findings say this is happening quite a lot within these places. The women had cried out and said, can we have some respite? Can we have some of these different systems readdressed and addressed over and over again? Of course, sensitizations as well have been carried out within these places, but Uganda being heavily patriarchal, you get to see that sometimes it is difficult. I will give you some of the different systems in which this happens. Customer care. When it comes down there, how does the person, how does the woman with the vending stall, how does the woman with the food stall be able to basically harmonize? The men have, in different conversations orally, have been cited to say, you know what, I will pay, I will become a client to the different person that treats me well. So you find out in most cases, innuendos are made of a suggestive nature, because that is pretext under customer care. If the woman goes out there and says, welcome, the men, the greatest of all men, welcome, you have come, I'm here to serve you. Of course, that immediately may have an undertone of playfulness in it and bringing you closer to your client, but in reality, it also widens the power dynamics within that relationship. So how do they get to such a point that there is playfulness, there is this great communication, but then at the same time, there is a stance in which professionalism is going to be maintained. Professionalism in that setting, meaning the woman is able to communicate that there is a boundary in how you make suggestions to me, in how you speak to me, in how you touch, the physical touches. The communication has to be in place. Now that harmony sometimes is not quite clear. There are so many blurred lines in how some of these communication strategies are implemented, especially down there. Why are we looking at this? Because we know that within a patriarchal system, the position of submission is normally pretext on the woman, and the woman has to be submissive. Now, when it comes to a hospitality sector, you also know very well that the customer is king, and customer relations will grab you the next client, will bring you the next client. If you are rude, or you are aloof, or you don't really mind so much, you are distant, it will as well cost you the next customer. But it has been said as well in different engagements that the more these supposedly customer relations hinged on patriarchal ways of dealing with things, sasokulaba and nkukolere chitata, all those different ways, if we're coming down into the pretext of the Ugandan setting, these ones actually make more and more women prone to gender-based violence if particular boundaries, clear boundaries, are not put in place in regards to touch, in regards to speech. If all these boundaries are not maintained, they can make you prone to gender-based violence. Now, get onto our social media pages and let us know, Smart24 TV official or Smart24 TV as one word. Let us know what you think about this topic. Has it happened to you? Have you had yourself maybe in a position whereby you said, what is this? What have I gotten myself into unknowingly? Because sometimes we walk into something and then it leaves us with a bad taste as women. And sometimes the men walk into something and it leaves them with a bad taste, and then you're left wondering, what exactly did I do because I did not like this particular response? So please be very keen on the way some of these, on the way you communicate with others. Whereas we stand for a very homely feeling, a homely way of relating with our neighbors, because the essence of this is my neighbor, this is my sister, this is my brother. You have to maintain that particular bracket, that boundary, in which you know that at the end of the day, you're not going to be a victim of gender-based violence. Would want to hear, has it happened to you? What do you think about some of this particular topic? Is it so blurred? Is it so blurred? Is it not clear enough? When we went down recently with the team to the marketplaces, the same different women within there were saying that they've had quite a lot of messages on gender-based violence, but what they need right now is money, access to financing. And this particular woman leader told us that we have had so much about GBV within this community, within this particular setting, but what we need right now is money. And then when you come down to between 2029 and around 2011, there was a particular program up in northern Uganda that tried to find out linkages between empowerment, economic empowerment of women, as well as propensity to violence. And in most cases, they had two trials whereby they had this grouping that was just giving money. They gave money to particular women as capital, of course, for their businesses. And then another group had their spouses introduced and encouraged to be part and parcel. It was found out that those ones that have their spouses on board have a better quality of intimate relationship. That means at least no one is suspicious. No one is saying, what did I do wrong? Where is this money going? Because both of them are on ground and are able to come up with the same monies. But then when it comes down to who exactly is being molested, or where is the violence coming from, not much was being said. And when it comes down to the fact that these are rural communities, you also know for sure that there is not quite a lot of communication, especially being outed there. A woman or man not normally come out and say, ABCD has happened to me. I'll give you more details on that as we get to talk to our guests coming up right now. But for now, let's take a short break and I'll be right back.
Smart 24, driving business. Cooking oil like no other makes the meal so sweet and scrumptious. The taste of Uganda, yeah, the taste of Uganda.
Amanya gange nze Namutebi Sharon nga nkolera wano wennyini Saka Kirombe oba Makindye. Empangula gye nawanguddemu ssente mbadde nga nkozesa mobile money nga nsindika school fees w'omwana ku ssomero. Okutegeera nti mpangudde, nze mutima neegambye nti kambalinde bamale okujja ndyoke nzikirize nti mpangudde. Kyennyinza okubagamba nti si byabafere, weewaawo abafere gye bali, naye ennamba eri emu yokka era bw'eba ekukubidde omanye eyo si yabafere. Mpulira bulungi nnyo era ndi musanyufu nnyo. Naye MTN mobile money mbebaza nnyo, mwebale nnyo, mwebalire.
Together we're unstoppable.
3 inspired souls brought together by love are set on a life-changing journey.
This is your life, Mackenzie. This is no longer a dream.
It's just something about Mackenzie.
I'll never marry.
Your position does not allow you to break work relationship rules.
Where choices change everything. Crossroads, a brand new telenovela starting 25th June at 8 p.m. on Pearl Magic Prime. DSTV channel 148, GoTV channel 303.
Smart 24, driving business.
Welcome back from the break. Now with our guest, Business Insight, Mr. Timothy Chemonges, the Associate Director at Center for Policy Analysis. Timothy, we had dived straight into, in the first couple of minutes, where I was talking about the woman in the marketplace, the man and woman, looking at these dynamics, yes, and the different research findings. You are at the center of research, Timothy. What is happening out there? What is being shown about women and men working together in the marketplace, especially in regards to GBV?
Thank you so much, and I'm glad to be here, and good morning to our viewers. So a couple of studies, both by us and the international labor organizations, together with the other bodies that have extensively developed or gone into this aspects of getting to understand what exactly is happening. A couple of things come out very clearly, and top of those is likely about the power imbalance between the two genders. Yeah. Both in terms of both at the workplace, but also extending it in the home area, but also giving it a context of the society that we live in, that is predominantly patriarchal. Yeah. Two, there are definitely findings around the culture and the norms that that the society has since put in place, stereotyping a specific gender to operate or be in a certain manner. Yeah. In the same light, there are factors to do with the gender roles that are heavily, put on women. Yeah. So if you have to execute much of that, much of those duties, but also at the same time ensure that you are contributing substantially in the economic space, but also largely around work. It tells that greatly affects. There are findings around the perception, but also even in terms of the legal framework. I think the legal framework still has issues, and probably I think progressively there is need for strengthening to ensure that the legal framework can protect.
As you mentioned, the legal framework, I've just remembered one story in which me and my partner were mediating. We were called in to mediate a domestic, a little bit of a quarrel that turned rowdy, and we found ourselves at the police, at the community police post. Now, this is the funny part about it. In there, even after, because it is the lady that basically made the complaint, and very vocal lady, and now the part to me that came out, even all throughout during this time, was after all the bickering and the mediation and both parties were there, we were also there. This is the part that amused me, that the person who was meant to actually handle that made a comment to my partner and said, you see, this Kabila here is not very easy. This Kabila is not very easy, my brother. If you want to go down that route, know that you're going to have a headache all throughout the time. Sure. We were so shocked, but I was more shocked than that, because this was not meant to be what we expected. Yes, you may want to have turn buddy, but now this particular thing happened right as I was watching. And now you wonder, where is the justice system? Correct. How is it going to happen?
I mean, once you have a weak legal framework, and that extends to the enforcement bit, there are definitely concerns engaging the different enforcement agencies. They definitely have their issues, concerns that they feel need to be addressed, both structural but also in terms of operation that they raise. But I guess the one thing that we can agree to is that there is definitely need to ensure that the legal framework is practical. And given the fact some of these things keep evolving, they evolve and take different approaches and different manner. So there's need for us to ensure that we can continuously review these laws. The other is around ensuring that we can sustainably engage the community, engage and continuously create awareness
about
this, and specifically the men, so that they're able to appreciate, they're able to understand, but also more importantly, the way things are as they are, it's overbearing on the men, to the extent that any contribution that comes from out to the family, economically, in terms of money, it is a contribution. it slightly lowers the stress and the burden that a man has to go through to ensure that he provides all these things.
Yes.
So if there is any support that can be extended towards the family, then it comes in very handy.
Is this under the pretext that, yes, this is a relief to the man as long as you do not enter my space as a man? No. As long as you do not assign, and let's really be very honest about this. This is okay. Yes, let her help me. Let the money come in. Let it be helpful, as you are saying. But as long as you do not challenge my authority as the man, as long as you do not challenge my dominant, stature as the man, you do not belittle me in public. You do not belittle me here. You do not come out with snide remarks. All those are hinged but not talked about. They are hinged on that particular effectiveness. But no one seems to be talking about them. Why is it that we don't talk about them?
So, first of all, you know that the insecurity, how the other person feels, is completely out of your control. And it is absolutely subjective, by the way.
Yeah.
A simple remark, a simple action, even a signal could actually be interpreted to imagine that you're trying to challenge, you're trying to undermine. So it's completely out of
subjective.
It's subjective. And it is purely premised on the man himself. And so, to the extent that this man does not appreciate, does not understand exactly what this whole thing is about, you can do so much this other side on the other partner, and it doesn't trickle the other side. The man still feels very threatened by anything, and even my mere signals thing, which shouldn't have been actually be maybe interpreted in that manner. So, but again, of course, it draws back to the issue of the society that we are in, but also more importantly, I think the awareness, the need to appreciate and understand that the families can work together,
coexist, really.
Can coexist,
Now, you mentioned as well something, and whenever you mention something that opens up a past thing, I reflect. There is that moment whereby there was a debate on when it comes to rape and all this sexual violence. Who is to blame? Is it the woman who puts on tight clothing, or is it the man who should know? You know very well that in most cases during that time the man was saying, "Can she stop trying to seduce me?" Whereas everyone was saying, the rest of the different activists were saying, "But she has every right to put on the way she wants. So it is your own responsibility to take care of your manhood and your desires and all that." Fast forward, we are back to this vending woman who has, if you get to notice, to observe, basically, you will see a woman, a young girl who is very well endowed, has the nice bottom, has everything in place, will get a job faster than the one who is just there with no hips, no nothing. Why are they strategically? And they will tell them, can you smile often? Can you talk to these people nicely? If they hold your hand, allow them to hold your hand. But I was also mentioning that it's very key, the non-verbal and verbal communication that you put out there can make you a victim of GBV, especially in the workplace. Now, coming back to the roles, the woman is supposed to be more submissive, is supposed to be more entertaining, more all this, to get you more customers, because the male clients will come to you as well as female clients. But at the same time, it makes you more prone to violence. How do we harmonize this for the woman in the workplace out there, and for the man also to understand that just because I have smiled and I'm serving you food does not mean that it's suggestive enough to say, now move from the smile to holding my hand. How can this be clearly put out?
So we did a study around the same debate, specifically around whether what women do, whether how they dress, has a direct relation in their action. Whether the action, that even extending to harassment or even rape, in rape and defilement on the same. And we definitely found that it is purely on the men's side. It's the mentality. You can have a fully covered person.
Yes.
And actually, by the way,
in a circle dress, complete.
We actually found that in countries that are predominantly Islamic, for example, Egypt, and some of these other countries, which are predominantly Muslim, and they take the manner of dressing and covering the whole body.
Yes.
The levels of sexual harassment and specifically defilement and rape were very high.
Were high
compared to the rest of these other countries that do not operate purely on the specific dress code that you must cover every part of your body.
Yeah.
They were high. So the point that we wanted to deconstruct and understand better, does being covered fully covering the whole body in any way prevent you from being harassed? We found actually it's not true.
Yes.
It's purely on the men. And so I think that bringing it to the workspace, the only unfortunate bit is that we're in a capitalistic world. And looking at it from the business perspective, many of the business owners would want to lure, would want to attract customers, potential partners, specifically through the things that the society seems to be excited on. And women seem to be one of the
centers of excitement.
Centers of excitement. that if you have a well-smiling lady,
yes,
a lady dressed in a specific manner, probably they are likely to attract. And this we see even in the small businesses, in bars, in hotels.
Yes.
In hotels, you'll find the
receptionists predominantly women.
Yes, predominantly women, and you must dress in a certain
way.
You must do things in a specific way.
Yeah.
Partly because of the capitalistic nature that we are in. Money is a bit in front of. So I think that for most of this, there has to be very clear mechanisms, and it should be in the best interest of the employers or the owners of these businesses to protect their employees. Because many times the unfortunate bit is that it's money first for most of this. Again, going back to the legal framework, to ensure that the individuals or people who find themselves in spaces where either they are harassed or they are treated in a manner that is not proper, have avenues that they can run to within the institution, but also within the structure of government. And that must be acted on. The challenge we have again is that, and in many of the findings we see, is that even the attitude of the enforcement agencies is quite interesting. That if you, let's say, a lady went to the police to report a matter of harassment,
yes,
this is something that.
What were you thinking?
What were you thinking? How did you do this?
Now, imagine that scenario whereby, and this has happened before. These are very live examples that come in, whereby a lady is going. We had a young Muchiga girl, very assertive, and she decided to go and work in in a pub. And she quit after. She didn't even make it half day. She didn't even work like the normal 6 hours. No, she didn't. One, because the gentleman kept patting her, and of course she would lash out. And the very first thing they'll tell her, so why are you here? Why are you working in this place here? So when we come down to how do we harmonize, how do we find, because there are lots of blurred areas, areas that are not black, they're not white, they are gray. No one can give them a good system and say, be dominant, yes, talk, communicate loudly. Instead, they will blame you and say, why are you working in a pub if you don't want to be petted? Why are you working in this particular eating place in Toninida if you don't want to smile at a customer? How does the woman in business protect herself, or the man in business per se, because even the men are subject to this? How do they protect themselves from being harassed?
So I think that because sometimes being harassed is purely on the other side. How you conduct yourself, how you dress, while there may be some small things that probably you can say maybe contributed,
were positive.
Majority of the factors leading to harassment is on the other side, the person harassing you. It's purely on the other side. And so in order to because you're dealing with a person who is already having a predetermined mindset, but also there seems to be like society has created some things to be tolerable, yet they don't go well with individuals, which shouldn't actually be happening. And so we, on the first and the very firm, position is to ensure and task that business owners protect their staff as an immediate space, workspace, to ensure that every workspace is actually safe for the employees to do work.
Yeah. With
a very keen firm, and it's possible. It has happened, and it's actually very practical.
Yes. Yeah. If you're talking about Kampala Serena Hotel, definitely they will push for it. Yeah. If you're talking about Mama Nachi's place down here, will it be, or they will come in and say, but I have to make business. I have to make business. She's coming into this wider way. And what they normally say is, Olimuntu Mukulu. Yeah. Yes, you are old enough to know where you are working. So how does the girl out there say, I don't want to be petted, I don't want to be patted?
So I agree with you.
And you're saying be firm.
I agree with you. So recently, just here in Parliament, where we have a very presupposed women who are fairly aware.
I know where you're going.
the issues of harassment still appear.
Yes.
And many women, and this I can confirm, having been in the space of Parliament for some time, that it happens. And that sometimes, looking at the power dynamics that are at play, despite the power, despite the awareness and the protection, both the institution has all this.
You can imagine.
It exposes this. So imagine that what happens in that institution.
Yeah.
What would happen in the other area? Even in some of the government agencies. So predominantly looking at it, of course, the women in the lower scale are more vulnerable.
Definitely.
Partly because they really need that job. Their level of power is quite limited. I think that is to continuously engage this group of people continuously through whichever means that is accessible to them. Yeah. To create an awareness and understanding that this is wrong. You have these avenues that you could potentially address your matter to, and you can be able to get. You can be able to be helped or to get help. Two is to ensure that there is very firm, to make it extremely risky on matters of sexual harassment. It's just that I think there are things that we've since tolerated as a country, and it has encouraged the men who, again, maybe the system and the environment greatly encourages some of these things, and it becomes tolerant. The idea is to ensure that we make it as painful as possible for you actually to get involved in these things. We've seen in the rural areas where matters defilement, matters rape are settled communally, that even where I come from, you still see that happen, where someone is got and they are paying one cow or maybe a goat.
Yeah.
So there has to be continuous awareness. I've seen civil society organizations in that area, and some are doing an extreme good job to ensure that they continuously engage the communities. There are organizations I've worked for that are doing an excellent work in terms of offering legal services, to the people who need them, specifically around gender-based violence and the related areas.
Timothy, let's not dance around here. Yes, let's be as particular about. You mentioned that all these things, sometimes the power dynamic come up even at the very top in Parliament. I want to know, within these blurred lines that are normally not addressed, the woman down, not even talking about the other one who can assertively go to court and open up a case against that one at the top can. All she has to do is equipped with the right attitude and capacity built on how far she can go in protecting her space. So that is maybe a more subjective issue that needs to be ironed, but every part of power on that point is up. But I'm talking about this woman down here. There are lots of blurred lines here, there are lots of blurred lines up there. How does this woman be able to carry out her business in dignity? And we're talking about not even just the semi-formal or the formalized businesses. We're talking about those micro ones down there in the market space. You are saying be firm. She is saying, but this woman, this girl here, who is on commission basis, by the way, the more clients you get and you quote unquote lure and bring over to sit at your table and eat, the more commission you get. She's telling them, Oli muntu mukulu, you're old enough. Go out there, smile, be suggestive, put on a certain way, and come back, bring more clients. That's the amount of money you will get. Now you are coming up with your GBV approach and saying, let us be firm. Don't allow them, don't even smile at them. You can smile, but make sure they don't touch you, they don't do this. How can she harmonize and be clear within this gray area? How can she?
Because the truth also is that, let me just give context. We recently had interaction with one of the ladies. She was defiled and got pregnant. So I think she was involved in the informal businesses. And I think predominantly around the border stages. So she got to tell us that how they operate, and for you to be able to get the clientele within that space, you have to have a partner who is the alpha male of one of them. Yes. So that then you are able to be protected within the space, which is absolutely not a good approach.
Yes.
And it seems to be the thing that is seen in some of these other spaces, that you identify yourself with
then you will be untouchable.
Then you will be untouchable. So that's something. It's not a desirable. It's not a desirable to that end. To ensure that the women in the informal sector can be protected. Again, sometimes it's because of the vulnerability. I think the ultimate thing for me, from where I stand, is that the approach is both formal and informal that need to be employed. And the formal structures really is what we've discussed. The need to understand where you are at in terms of legal framework, but also strengthening the legal framework, even including the enforcement agencies, so that then you have a place to run to. On the person themselves, the ability for them even to appreciate and understand this is wrong, this is right, and this is how far I can go, and this the ability of awareness among the ladies themselves. That's another thing that should be addressed. Now, we have the informal approaches, for which I think that given the dynamics within the businesses, one could be where the ladies, and this usually most of them are like young ladies, could potentially adopt the approach of working closely with senior colleagues, that they can seek protection.
Yes.
I've seen that apply, especially in the institutions that I've worked here.
If you're lucky and she's more
understanding,
more protective, and not actually throwing you out there. If you're lucky.
Yes. If there is one who is more sensible and probably appreciates the whole thing, could be a person that you lean on, and in the informal setting, to ensure that you still maintain the job, but also journeys with you on how to navigate these murky waters, because you definitely need the job and you need to make a living.
That's true.
The other approach has been to ensure that there can be still on the informal, to create awareness among men. Create awareness among men to ensure that they're able to appreciate. And I'm not saying that they do this because they don't know. They are very aware.
Yes.
They know that the consequences are this.
But they can get away with it.
And they can get away with it. At the end of the day, some of the things that happen. So, and it seems to be an accepted practice within those spaces.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but also I know that within the spaces, there are like some sort of structures. There are like some sort of structures that are there. So we could potentially encourage utilizing the structures within the informal setting, even in the market down there.
Yeah.
There are sensible they are sensible individuals, they are sensible structures that we could explore towards to utilize those spaces, those structures. Because again, what you don't want is to create a space or create a perception that the lady, if she ran away from this hotel and goes to the next, she goes and meets the same challenges the other side. Yes. And or even worse. So the thing around being able to ensure that the woman is protected and can utilize all these avenues that she has without necessarily compromising her ability to make a living. Yeah.
What is that key thing? Give me just two key things within just this 1-2 minutes that are left that you believe all key stakeholders, especially those ones that come in and sweep into some of these marketplaces, as we have seen, and what they are saying is totally unrealistic to the woman in the marketplace, because that continuously happens, and they will entertain you, they will try and tap into whatever wisdom you have or whatever kindness you have. But at the end of the day, when you get to talk to some of these women, as we have spoken down here to them at Smart 24 TV where they work, they will tell you, what I want is money. And I even mentioned it there. They are coming in telling us about all these GBV things. We are tired. Me, what I want is money I put back into my business and I pay for my children. So how do we ensure that even as the key players out there are really looking at some of these things that you've said, that they make sure that the person, the beneficiary, actually understands the magnitude? Because the way she came out and said, "Me jagala sente, I'm tired of this GBV nonsense that they're talking about," it shows you that even the care that you have may not be really reciprocated in one way. What can be done to make sure that it's a different story? In just 1 or 2 words.
So I think that first of all, in terms of the things and the vulnerability, the concerns that the women are raising are very valid in terms of we need money to inject into business. Is that money there? Yes, that money is there. The government has put in place some programs that could potentially help extend that money. We have the microfinance. We have there are all these avenues that money could come from. 2 is to ensure that there is very clear understanding. Again, I think it goes back to being able to appreciate, because if the respondents or the women down there are saying that we need the money, there are avenues or there are already established institutions that should be able to provide that money. And so it is for us and our mandate to ensure that we can hold these people accountable and demand that these services are extended to the to the beneficiaries, as we were discussing it previously. While this program continues, there is a bit of a gap. Sometimes the beneficiaries do not understand or even do not receive some of these intended resources that are earmarked for them. Now, the concern around gender-based violence, it's a standalone, but also it's a very big component. The challenge is mixing them so much, mixing money and then mixing so many things. So you end up getting lost. So it's just to appreciate that the concerns that the women are raising, they can be able to be addressed. Those that require the legal support, both in terms of enforcement, but any other legal support are provided, and the individuals that can provide A, B, C, D. The people who provide resources are so and so, and these are the ways, and these are, for us who are on this other side, can be able to push and demand for accountability, but also use better ways of utilizing these resources. Those that are charged with the mandate of creating awareness, those in the civil society, in the churches, and what have you, can come in also from that side. So it's a wholesome approach to it.
So what you're saying is that give them the information, sensitize them, and offer the linkages, so that at any one time, if a woman needs this particular service, legal representation, she knows where to find it. If she needs maybe more capacity building, she knows where to find it. If she needs any other help of any sort, whether it's financial, she knows where to find it. So that is the idea so far as we move along.
I think that knowledge is power. If we can be able to ensure that create better awareness, ensure that because this most of these services, most of these platforms are there.
Yeah.
There is a knowledge gap on how to utilize them. Even having this, the women getting empowered and even understand that I can go here and get
this particular
service. And the confidence. And then from there, after knowing, then we can now push and say that the police, you are charged. Why are people coming here and you're not offering them? Civil society, why do you raise a lot of promises which cannot
you don't deliver?
You don't deliver. Why? So all these things, and then you ask why. But it's important that they appreciate the use of both formal and informal approaches, especially for the lower class group of people, on how to navigate the market waters. Because again, how to approach some of those challenges at the lower level, it's not a straight way.
It is.
So you end up finding you have to create a balance between survival.
That's true. Yes.
And how to survival, but also how to maneuver
live in dignity.
Yeah. So trying to understand and figuring it out, especially working with those that are slightly or senior, those that are sensible and can provide you like guidance and hold your hand.
This has been quite a delight to have this insight from you, and we will be having some of these conversations all throughout next week, looking at what can be done. How do we get to harmonize? How do we get to go through these murky waters at all different levels of business in Uganda? Remember, this is Kemcha Doreen. We've had business insight. We had great insight coming in from Mr. Timothy Chemonges, the Associate Director from Center for Policy Analysis. Thank you so much, Timothy, for joining us.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here, and definitely we hope that this can contribute to change, but also impact in the society. Thank you.
Indeed, it will. We are still here driving business at Smart 24 TV. Please get onto our social media pages and let us know what you think or what is your input in regards to this. Until tomorrow, have a great day and bye-bye.